We do have one more thing to discuss on today's show. We have to preview the game of the week, and we've got an awesome game of the week in week 2. It's not a top 10 matchup, but it's two teams in the Spring Blake Sweet 16. Michigan at Oklahoma. The Sooners are 5.5-point favorites. The over-under is set at 46.5. Now, I might be wrong. I thought this spread was initially at 2.5 when I checked before week 1. And it looks like it's grown a few points since then. But two Spring Blake Sweet 16 teams, both coming off of tune-up games in which, yeah, they looked great, but you would also be like, oh, that scored. It wasn't like they won by 60. I think Illinois, Oklahoma put up 35. Michigan won by 14, 17, 21, somewhere in that range. This, to me, is basically your week 1 matchup. I didn't necessarily take too much away from week 1. We're going to talk about the things that I did take away, and I'm like, okay, maybe that will have an impact on the game. But as I said, the biggest mistake you can make in this sport outside of thinking you know everything heading into week 1 is taking week 1 and letting it dictate how you look at week 2. So, for instance, New Mexico did hang around with Michigan, specifically on offense, but at the same time, Michigan's defense was kind of letting everybody play, letting everybody get reps. They wanted to see who they had on their defensive roster, and because of that, it wasn't this cohesive unit working together on the field at all same times. So conversely, Oklahoma's offensive line, which I believe to be the weakness of their team, looked really good. But also, they played a crappy Illinois State team. How will that look against Michigan? Probably a little bit different. I wanted to do something new here with game previews. I didn't love the way that we did them last week. We're going to change it up. Not what I know, what I think I know. We're going to just talk about paths to victory. We're going to start with Oklahoma. Their path to a win on Saturday, to me, is tempo, tempo, tempo. Ben Arbuckle can really stress out this Michigan defense if he plays his cards right. And by that I mean, quickly getting to the line, not letting the defense settle if you're sustaining long drives. Lots of RPO, utilizing the quarterback run, misdirection, all of that stuff that requires the defense to think. And why that's important for Michigan is Wink Martindale is such a blitz-heavy head coach. It's so aggressive. But you can beat that aggressive style by a lot of trickeration. I've talked about this game a million times on this show now. When Texas went up to Michigan and Michigan was like, we're just going to throw fire at your offense, Sark was like, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, creative, creative, creative. And they put up 30-plus points. Deception, motion, misdirection on offense are going to be huge for this team because I think it's a real mismatch for an aggressive, blitz-heavy type defense. And I also think Oklahoma has the personnel to match it. It's not like they're at a talent deficit. Michigan's defense is really good, but Oklahoma has talented wide receivers. They've got a really talented two-way quarterback, a better offensive line, and talented running back. So I think when you combine in dictating the tempo, being the aggressor, matching Michigan's fire with even more fire, I think that's your best path to a victory on Saturday, specifically on the offensive side of things. Now, for the Oklahoma defense, defensively for Oklahoma, it comes down to not letting Michigan into third and manageables. We know what Michigan is going to do on offense. The last thing you want is by the third quarter, this time of possession battle is 2-1 in Michigan's favor. If they are getting to 2nd and 4 or 3rd and 2, your defense is going to be tired by the 3rd and 4th quarter. There's just no way to handle that. We've seen it time in and time out. Michigan's offense just do that to opponents and just wear them down, muck it up in the trenches, and try and pull out like a 13-10 victory. Oklahoma has one of the best defenses in the nation at all 3 levels. And despite the secondary potentially being the weakest level, they still have a clear talent mismatch between Michigan's wide receivers. That being said, you gotta keep everything clean up front and in the middle of the football field. I would leave the corners on an island on the perimeter. I would say, hey, you've got a young quarterback making his first legit hard start of his career. He's 18 years old, and you don't have talented wide receivers. If you beat us on the outside and down the field, so be it. Hats off to you. The way I don't want Michigan to beat me is because they're finding their tight ends in the middle of the field, or they're getting to 3rd and 2 and they're just bullying you between the trenches because you're spending too much focus on the outside. So That is, to me, on both sides of the football, the way for Oklahoma to get a win on Saturday. Michigan's path is obviously the converse of that. Very different. You just have to play Michigan football, but you also need a sprinkle of quarterback magic from Bryce Underwood. Michigan's front seven in this game should be the biggest mismatch they have all day. And I don't know if it's a substantial one. We haven't seen Oklahoma's offensive line tested this year. I do think it's the weakest unit of their group, and I do believe Michigan's front seven is the strongest unit of their group. How substantial of a mismatch is that might decide, Michigan's ability to get a win here, a tough road win in Norman. I do believe Michigan's front seven is of top 3 caliber. Oklahoma's offensive line isn't like a top 20 to 25, but they're also not a, 50th or below. It's kind of right in between that path there. So it's super important to see early on how the front seven is gaining traction along the Oklahoma offensive line. And so important in this game, as it is for a lot of games at the collegiate level. Quarterback contain is huge, paramount for the Michigan defense. Derek Moore, TJ Guy on the edge, they have to be so sound in the way that they keep John Mateer in the pocket, because I do not believe that if Mateer is able to roll out or to get these extended plays where the receivers have more time to break open or find the soft spots in coverage, I don't think you're going to be able to stop the Oklahoma offense if they're able to do that. If you are able to generate pressure with your defensive tackles and then on the outside keep John Mateer flustered in the pocket, all of a sudden he's not able to use some of his best abilities the way that he probably wants to on Saturday. So you just have to, you really have to keep this offense stuck up front, keep the quarterback in the pocket. That's the best path for Michigan's defense to get a win on Saturday. It is tough that you're going to be without Jayshon Barnum for the first half. Really dumb targeting call. I hate it for the sport. I hate it that it's in a meaningless game, and now you have to miss half of your, one of your most important games of the season. It will be really interesting to see how they fill the void there in the first half. Can you get to halftime and keep this game manageable so you can get one of your better players back? That's going to be massive for them defensively as well. For offense, for Michigan's offense in this game, the path to a victory is to slow the motherfucker down. Slow it down. Put Justice Haynes in between the tackles 18 to 20 times and learn early on if you can lean on Oklahoma's front seven. You might be able to early on. I know you probably will by the end of the game. The end of the game doesn't matter if Oklahoma is up by 10 points or 14 points. You need to learn early on. Can you lean on them? Can you sustain long drives early on? Can you make Oklahoma's front seven gassed by the middle of the second quarter? That is going to be massive. I don't think Michigan has like this elite offensive line that they had in years past, but it's a very good group, and they have a really good running back in Justice Haynes, who comes over from Alabama. I think that you're going to be a little bit outmatched on the perimeter. So, well, I don't think, I know. I know that Michigan's offense is going to be outmatched on the perimeter. I don't think you're going to win this game by putting up 30 points and pushing the football down the field. Now, that being said, you do probably need Bryce Underwood to be special as well, which is a really tough ask of a guy in his second career start, his first against a Power 4 conference opponent. He's 18 years old. That being said, I saw some really nice throws from the kid on Saturday against New Mexico. There was one, I don't even know what kind of route you're talking about. It was almost like a slot fade, but it was a little bit shorter than that. And Underwood hit the guy in stride. It was a beautifully placed ball. He had a few throws where you're just like, okay, I see why they gave him all the money. I see why he's starting at 18. You need him to be special on Saturday because it's a little bit different of an opponent than New Mexico. I think it's going to have to come on the ground as well, too. Can you get him running the football 7 or 8 times when the defense thinks they've done a great job of tightening up on your receivers, and maybe they are a little lax back? Maybe can you get that 3rd and 6th run for a first down to keep moving the chains? You're going to need him to make a handful of special plays for Michigan if you want to win this thing. So those are the paths to victory for both of these teams. Now let's try to land the plane. This is one of those games that 10 weeks from now we are going to be talking about. In my opinion, it is. Because, sorry, I always get nervous that this thing stops recording. Does it? I have no idea. Anywho, let me land the plane on this thing. This is one of those games where 10 weeks from now we are going to be talking about, because I believe that Michigan and Oklahoma are going to be on the bubble of playoff contention by the end of this season. And it's unfair to look at how a team is in week 2 and compare it to week 12, but head-to-head matchups between the SEC and the Big Ten are going to be pivotal at the end of this thing. Massive implications in this game. Let's also not forget Sharon Moore is returning to Oklahoma, where he played college football for a couple of seasons, graduated in 2008. This is also going to be his last game before the 3-game suspension that he's serving. So this just has like it's week 2, but it has a lot riding on it for the Michigan Wolverine. And for Oklahoma, after everything they had to deal with last season and how bad they were, especially on one side of the football, this is one of those games that can cement like, okay, no, Venables is the right guy. We made the right additions, and we are going to be frisky, not just in the SEC, but also the playoff conversation. We get really good defenses, 2 really special prospects at the quarterback position. You know what I think about both of these teams if you've been listening to the show for a while, so you know where I'm going to go. At the end of the day, I think that Oklahoma's speed advantage on offense, having a quarterback and offensive coordinator that I trust more, will be a slight difference maker. I'm not comfortable saying that Oklahoma is going to go in there and light the world on fire and everybody's leaving that game being like, wow, national title contender. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be low scoring, but I am going to take the Sooners to win 24-21. So we are right on the edge of that over-under total. It's sitting at 46.5. I'm predicting 45. I'm predicting the Wolverine to cover. I think it's going to be a really nice effort from Michigan. I don't think they're going to get bullied around by Oklahoma, but I am going to take the fact that Oklahoma can stretch the ball down the field a little bit more, or I know that the offensive coordinator is one of the best in this sport and can dial up just maybe a couple more plays to beat a really talented Michigan team. I'm going to take Oklahoma to win this one narrowly, but still feel really good about the start to their 2025 season.